Big ideas, big dreams, and big achievements. Meet and learn from successful startup founders. Watch Startup Champions 2.0. Hello and welcome to Startup Champions 2.0, the show where you meet and learn from National Startup Award winning founders. In the show today, you will meet one startup champion and a special guest who is a mentor. They are Bionic and Dr. Ritesh Malik. Before I introduce my first guest to you, from the entire team at Startup Champions 2.0, I wish you a very happy Janmashtami. The way Bhagavad Gita has given clarity to the world, Startup Champions 2.0 is helping entrepreneurs get inspired and find the right problems to solve and build great businesses. It's now time to meet our first startup champion. Let's see their story now.
It is an entirely designed and made in India product. From around 42 raw materials that go into it, only 4 are imported. When Grippy comes into play, it is almost a fifth of the cost of those devices, and being made in India, being serviceable in India, it is a benefit to the end user. For a basic maintenance, the device doesn't need to come to us, but it can be taken to even a local watch repair shop and it can be serviced. So this is ensuring that the patient or the user, the beneficiary, doesn't have any stress after buying the device. If anyone visits our website, on the first landing page itself, they'll see a video of a person. His name is Uncle Russell and he's one of our first customers. He, after losing his hand, tried a few different options and he always had a dream of driving his car once again. After we fitted it with Grippy, he started taking his driving lessons once more. We are looking at not just a learning phase, not just a independence phase, but also a possibility of people getting back to their lives and being bread earners once more. That's the whole goal of RoboBionics and Grippy, is to empower the lives of people with solutions through the sense of touch.
Levelin, welcome to Startup Champions 2.0.
Thank you.
This is totally fascinating. Tell me something, how difficult was it for you to create Grippy? And why don't you also start by first showing all of our audience what exactly is Grippy, what does it do? Here you go.
Sure. So Paritosh, first I switch it on.
Sure.
There are sensors embedded inside the device. Those sensors function based on a muscle impulse,
Okay.
which you think that you can give through either one of your active muscles on your hand, specifically even for people who are missing a hand by birth. Now once that impulse is triggered, your hand will close. Just like a doorbell, we want the same action to be given to a user. So on the same impulse, again it would open. That's how a basic hand function would take place. Now suppose I insert my hand in here. You can see it's taken the shape of my hand, not crushed it, and the grip is adequate enough to keep latching onto it. So that's how Grippy works. A very small addition to it is, it can sense and feel and tell the person who's wearing the hand through vibrations, just like the vibration on your phone, whether it's holding a soft or a hard object, whether the hand is opening or closing, all without looking at it.
Wow, this is fascinating. And this is not an easy thing to create. You've actually amalgamated software, hardware, electronics, and all of those put together. Though you are yourself a mechatronics student, so how did you make all of this possible? Just tell our viewers, how difficult or how easy was it for you to put together such a team that has created such a fascinating product?
Sure. So when I joined IIT Patna in 2014, I seen a batchmate who was missing a hand, and his name is Jayant. I started observing him. I was scared at first to go and directly ask him what was wrong. And after observing him, it came to my knowledge that where a normal student could take 10 minutes to get ready and reach the classroom, Jayant used to take somewhere close to an hour and a half. And that seemed to be a real problem. He couldn't code very well like others. He faced certain difficulties in day-to-day things. In asking him how I could solve the problem, I realized some of my own shortcomings. Being a mechanical engineer who did mechatronics, I loved machines but and the mechanics of it, but the lacking was on software or on electronics. So my friends Priyanka and Anil, one an electronics expert and the other software expert, time and again helped me develop that first prototype. And as soon as they seen Jayant use it for the first time, they were on board that we are in this with you for the long haul. So they became the co-founders.
Fantastic. And that's a big lesson for all of you, because one simple success measure of a startup is how good a team do you have with you, right? If you've got great problem-solving people with you, you will always do extremely well. How did you fund this business for the very first time? Was it friends or family? Was it the fools? Who funded you really in the very first?
So it all began after our incubation at the center in IIT Patna,
Sure.
where we applied for BIRAX grant, a Government of India entity, and that's how our journey started. Over time, various other incubators like the IIT Bombay incubator of Sign has invested. We have funded it through multiple awards that we have won. We have utilized that money towards the funding, and till now, whatever we make from our sale, we reinvested. So partially bootstrap, partially government grants.
Fantastic. And this is an important lesson for all of you as well. So if you are building a biotech or a health tech startup, BIRAC helps you. A lot of funds from Government of India help you. How is your product, Levlin, different from several other international standard products available to solve a similar problem in the market?
Okay, so first of all, you felt the weight of it.
I did.
It's just 600 grams compared to a device that weighs anywhere at a kilo and a half to 2 kilos. One problem that Jayant faced early on was a device which is called a body powered one that needs a harness to be worn. So you need the help of a second person. In this, as you see, a person can just put their hand in and it's plug and play. It immediately is able to start working. Something that we noticed when developing this device and deploying it was that the clinician who was fitting these devices also needed help, because they number only 2,500 to those 50 lakh amputees you mentioned.
Wow.
So a second device was developed for them which gets connected to an app to help those clinicians better evaluate the position of the sensors and how to place it well.
So one is you've created something for the Indian body type. Tell me something. The environment here is very, very different from, let's say,
Yes.
so to say, the same environment in the UK or somewhere in the US. Right? We have a lot more humidity. We have a lot more heat here in India. Does your device also cater to all of those conditions?
Yes, it does. So a typical device would run on EMG based sensors, electromyogram. The problem with it is it relies on the surface of the skin. In India, because of the humidity, as you pointed out, there's a lot of sweating,
Sure.
sometimes fatigue, and all these factors cause those sensors to malfunction. So we developed our own sensors, which we call MMG, mechanomyogram. And with that, we were able to bypass a lot of these problems where our users with the sense of touch technology are able to learn to operate a single device on their very first day of evaluation within 30 minutes.
Within 30 minutes?
Yes.
Fantastic. Wow. Big lesson for all of you. If you want to actually create a successful startup, a successful business, always remember that your customer has to be able to use your product or your service with the least possible friction and the highest possible convenience. Very, very important. Okay, my second last question to you, Levlin, is, look, sales is very, very important for every company, whether, in bionics or whether on the internet. How did you get your first customer? Where did it come from and how?
Okay. So we started our development from IIT Patna. The people who volunteered to help develop this device were local farmers from the surrounding villages, and those farmers kept coming in whenever we needed them for testing it. Now it so happened that a few of them were not able to afford these devices, and when we launched in 2021 at the Global Bio India platform, it was a venture known as Karekeba Ventures who's seen the development and helped us get connected to the Bihar government. The Bihar government seen the project. They agreed to sponsor it for 3 people, and one of the early beneficiaries was that beneficiary from the Bihar government. So that's how we locked in our first order.
Levlin, thank you so much for all the learnings that you've shared about your product and how, of course, you're solving this problem. Now is the time to take questions from the audience. I believe we have a question from Ms. Aditi Thakur from New Delhi. Aditi, please come on screen and ask your question to Levlin.
Hello, I'm Aditi Thakur. I'm a marketing professional and co-founder at BA Plus. My question is for Team Bionics. How important is it for a founder to be an all-rounder problem solver?
Good question. Go ahead.
Yeah. So yes, problem solving is very important, because if you don't see the problem first, you're going to create a solution that may cause another problem. It's very important to know your problem, to know the customer who's facing that problem, and to know that you're building a proper solution to solve that problem, not create more problems for that customer.
Fantastic. Tell me something from your experience, and very, very quickly, you were able to figure out this problem because of a friend who needed this, right?
Yes.
But while developing this, did you actually reach out to many more customers to understand their problems as well?
Yes, we reached out to over 50 people during the development. We understood there was a little bit hesitance towards acceptance, because they were not sure whether the quality is up to the mark, and what we did to ensure that that quality is kept at international standards is that we did a testing in an accredited laboratory that is for the international standards. So we are very proud to say that even though Grippy is made in India, it's tested as per those international standards.
So made in India product, all ready for the global market.
Yes.
Fantastic. On that note, Levlin, thank you so very much for being here on the Startup Champions show. It was amazing listening to you, and of course, all the very best. The top 3 learnings from this entire session are: number 1, when building a solution, know your product. Your product will always be used in the customer's environment. Number 2, make your solution affordable and accessible. And number 3, build trust with your customers with your product experience. Ensure that you implement all of them in your startup and make it a lot more successful. It's now time for a break, but don't you go anywhere. On the other side, you will meet a healthcare entrepreneur, a doctor, an investor, and a mentor to several startups. When you miss the chance to learn, you of course will miss the chance to earn. Meet me on the other side of this break.
Your window to rising India. India's voice on global platforms. Latest news from India and around the world. In-depth analysis of global headlines. Watch DD India in your country. Available for downlink in all Southeast Asian countries. STTV broadcast is available through the satellite GSAT 17 at 93.5 degrees east. HDTV broadcast is available through the satellite GSAT 10 at 83 degrees east. For technical details, scan here. Switch to DD India now.
Turning crisis into opportunity, transforming ideas into action, stories of real change, tales of sustainable solution. This series is going to tell stories of such changemakers. Watch Changemakers on DD India.
Welcome back once again to Startup Champions 2.0. It's now time to meet our special guest and of course the mentor, Dr. Ritesh Malik. Ritesh ji, Welcome to Startup Champions 2.0.
Thank you, Pari.
This is going to be literally a masterclass for the millions of Indians watching this show today.
No, I'm super excited.
Thank you so much. So my first question to you, Ritesh ji, is look, you're a doctor, both by choice, by family and by profession as well. And you're an entrepreneur, a very successful entrepreneur at that. And you've invested in 100 plus startups. There are just so many insights that we will get from you today. But my first question to you is that of a doctor, right? So Radix Healthcare is your venture. Just tell us a little history about Radix Healthcare. What do you do there?
So typically, I hail from a family of 37 doctors. My father started this way back in, I think, 2002.
Wow.
And this is our 20th year. And our focus is that how do we promote community healthcare? Typically speaking, in India, healthcare is not community led. We don't talk about healthcare. Typically speaking, a society that does not talk about healthcare faces the far negative challenges of healthcare. I feel health is the single most important responsibility for a government, for a group of people, for citizens, for a family, for a corporation. Healthcare is the epitome of happiness, and healthcare by WHO's definition is not merely an absence of a disease or infirmity, but total and full well-being when it comes to physical, social and mental well-being.
Wow.
I think that is very important. We just feel that healthcare is that our liver is fine, our brain is fine. No, healthcare is our mood. Healthcare is our safety. Healthcare is crime around us. Healthcare is a narcissistic prevalence in our societies. What we consume finally consumes us. And for me, healthcare is not about curation. While we have 5 OTs, we have so many surgeries, everything going on, we don't like that part. We are very passionate on prevention. We have 138 crore people, 1.38 billion people. By next year, we are going to overshadow the population of China by becoming the largest population in the world. How do you manage such a large population's healthcare in an equitable way? We cannot do it by curation. We need to do it by prevention. Even today, 5 lakh kids every year in India die because of a simple disease called diarrhea, dysentery, dehydration. 5 lakh, that's probably 500,000 kids dying.
Yes.
We have 28 crore people, that's 280 million people worldwide, out of which 90% is curative blindness by a simple and a cheap surgery called cataract surgery. So the whole idea is healthcare needs to be very equitable, it needs to be accessible, it needs to be affordable, and at the same time it needs to be a part of our education, our society, and we need to talk about healthcare. You tell me, when do we talk about healthcare? Have you ever seen people talk about? We don't talk about healthcare, and we don't know what are the negative effects of having a soda. We don't know what are the negative effects of having a burger, and we come to know of all these things when you get a heart attack at 45. And you must be listening that people are getting heart attacks at an earlier stage because it is the imbalance of food. And it's not other people, it's me myself. I ate such a bad burger yesterday. I shouldn't have, because in 10 minutes you get a burger, but a home cooked meal, it takes time to prepare. So I think nutrition is the biggest form of healthcare. So for us, Radix is, can we impact 138 crore people? With the hospital we cannot, but with the mindset of prevention we can.
As an entrepreneur, now you've invested in 100 plus startups. What do you tell the world today that I learned this from COVID?
So a couple of things. One, Murphy's law is for true. Whatever can go wrong will go wrong. So I think we should be prepared for the worst. Whenever we do financial outcomes, we always think that this is going to happen, but it only happens on the Excel sheet. We remove the element called the human element and the God element. I feel what COVID proved was that a small virus, and you know, virus is not permanently living. If it is inside someone's body, it is living, but if it is outside, it is a non-living crystal. Something as small as a virus can create a havoc in the humanity. So I feel that you should always be ready and you should be careful. And when we saw what happened in Wuhan, all the countries should have been very, very proactive in controlling COVID. COVID, it actually made me realize one thing, and that is that life is precious, and just live today. Don't think about tomorrow. Don't think about yesterday. Live today. And secondly, one of the key reasons I left medicine was, as a doctor, I could see 100 patients a day because time is limited. I'm trading my time.
Sure.
But by leveraging technology, I can go to 1 million, 10 million people. So what we did at Radix was we built SOPs and our SOPs were consumed by over 12 million people to actually do self-treatment.
My last question to you, Dr. Dinesh, is, millions of Indians are actually watching you right now, and so many amazing insights from you. With all your energy and intent for this country, what's your message for so many of youth?
So I think the first message is that because I'm a biology student, I love Charles Darwin. The theory of natural selection, it is not the fastest who will survive, it is not the largest who will survive, it is the one who changes consistently and constantly with time. Everything is changing. Do you know the world changes every single second? We don't know. In 1 week, your entire skin changes, and we don't even know this. These are subtle messages. As we have been given the privilege, it takes 10 raised to the power of 84 trillion to be born as a human, and we have been given a privilege, and your privilege is now. What you do today defines you.
Wow.
Do not be shackled by the societal locks. There's no ceiling. Everything, it doesn't matter. Your father does not have money, it doesn't matter. You don't have education, it does not matter. I did a research of the 100 richest people in the world. I thought everyone would have got their money from their forefathers. 72 people were first time billionaires, and took them only 20 years to become a billionaire.
Wow.
And I thought of these 72, they must have been from amazing institutes. Out of these 72, 36 never went to school, and 36 who went to schools and colleges were from extremely poor backgrounds. It does not matter from where you come. What matters is, it does not matter whether you are fair or dark. It does not matter whether you're slim or you are obese. What matters is what is there inside you. Work extremely hard, be ethical, and solve for today, and ensure that you are loyal to your practice, to your work, and work is worship. A lot of people ask me, Bhagwan kahan hai? Where is God? I say, Bhagwan, सारे भगवान ना इन हाथों या इन दिमाग के बीच में है. यही रावण है, यही राम है. Ensure that you give your best and become a Ram at what you do.
Phenomenal. Dr. Ritesh, thank you so very much for joining us today at Startup Champions 2.0. The top 3 learnings from this session are as follows. Number 1, your personal brand is extremely important as a startup founder. Number 2, be a problem solver like Dr. Ritesh. And number 3, invest in future problem solvers. Only when you do will you create a community of successful startup founders around you. It's now time for a very short break, but don't you go anywhere. Up next, you will learn the step number 2 of how to start a startup. Remember, this is going to be game-changing for you. So meet me on the other side of this break.
Your window to rising India. India's voice on global platforms. Latest news from India and around the world. In-depth analysis of global headlines. Watch DD India in your country. Available for downlink in Central Asian countries. STTV broadcast is available through the satellite GSAT 17 at 93.5 degrees east. HDTV broadcast is available through the satellite GSAT 10 at 83 degrees east. For technical details, scan here. Switch to DD India now. Your window to rising India. India's voice on global platforms. Latest news from India and around the world. In-depth analysis of global headlines. Watch DD India in your country. Available for downlink in Middle East countries. STTV broadcast is available through the satellite GSAT 17 at 93.5 degrees east. HDTV broadcast is available through the satellite GSAT 10 at 83 degrees east. For technical details, scan here. Switch to DD India now.
Welcome back once again to Startup Champions 2.0. You earn when you learn. You all know this. It's now time to take step number 2 of how to start a startup. The step is called idea validation. Remember that validation is the most important step in the growth of your company. Unless and until you validate your idea, do not take even a step, even a single step forward. What does validation mean? Validation means that real customers are paying real money for your idea. The one KPI that you should take care of during validation is either measure number of customers that are paying you the money, or either measure the number of engaged customers if you're not a money-making startup. Remember that these are the two most important numbers that you must measure. Only these numbers, they lead to real validation. Let me repeat it once again for you. That validation occurs 100% only and only when a real customer pays you money for your product or your service. If you don't have paying customers yet, do not move forward. Otherwise, you will land up to the exact same point where 99% of the startups, they end up failing within the first 3 years of their operations. For one simple reason, that they haven't validated their idea really, really well. You must do that. So now you know with step number 2 of how to start a startup on how exactly to validate your idea, what exactly to measure while validating your idea. I hope that you will implement this step in your startup and become a lot more successful. Leverage the learnings from the Startup Champions show to start your own startup or work with one of our startup champions. In the next episode, you will meet champions from the transport industry. Tell us what did you learn from this entire episode. Send your reactions, make a lot of videos and upload them on social media with hashtag StartupChampions2. You could also send in your videos on this given email ID too. Who knows, your videos just might be shared by the DD network and you become a lot more famous. Till then, stay hungry and stay foolish. Keep watching StartupChampions2.0. Thank you so much. Jai Hind.